Hey everybody, welcome back to Diesel Creek. My name's Matt. Behind me is my dream home. Now it's currently under construction if you haven't been following along. In the last video we went from a bare concrete foundation to what you see now, and that is framing completely done and the windows installed, basically what you would call dried in. Now it's not completely under roof yet. We just have that waterproof membrane stuff that they put on there until the roof can be installed. So as of filming this, I'm not completely sure what all we're going to cover in the next video, but I know one thing we're going to cover for sure, and that is concrete, because they're coming tomorrow to do the floor in the garage there. Anyways, stay tuned. Let's see what we can't get into on this video. Well, it's another exciting morning in the home building process here. Let me show you why. Got the guys that did my floor in the shop, Escardo Concrete. These guys showed up nice and early. They came yesterday actually and got the garage all prepped out, ready to go, but they just showed up here bright and early this morning. It's about 6 o'clock now, and I think the concrete truck should be here shortly, so it's exciting. We're gonna have a concrete floor by the end of the day. They just finished getting everything prepped out here, just waiting on concrete. Oh, concrete's here. It's awfully cold this morning, so my man's putting in some calcium to speed things up. Giving her a good thorough mixing now. Get that calcium all thoroughly mixed into that concrete.
What's up, man?
And the race is on. These boys work quick. They did my whole shop floor in a couple hours. I think part of that was waiting on a concrete truck too. Check it out. They just finished this thing up and it looks killer. Man, that is a beautifully burned in floor.
I said he's taking it to seal anyway. I wonder if he wants me to just leave it in. Yeah.
Oh man, I just love looking at the way that floor shines. That is beautiful. Couldn't be happier with the way that turned out. So on to the next bit of concrete. And there goes the concrete guys for the day. They're still gonna have to come back and do this front porch, of course, as well as the basement here. And this one would be ready to pour, except for the fact that I've got a bit of work to do here yet. So this stuff right here is called heat sheet. I've never used this particular product before, but we use something very similar when we put in the in-floor heat in the Dream Shop over there. These little pucks that are on top of the foam board here are made so that you can lay PEX tubing right down in there, and it'll just click in and hold the tubing in place perfectly for you. It is way nicer to use this stuff to lay in your PEX tubing than it is to use regular old flat foam and like staple it down or zip tie it to rebar or whatever. This stuff, it makes it so much easier to run. So as you can see, we've got quite a bit to install, but honestly, it's really not that bad. I'll be able to knock this out by myself, hopefully in one day, is my plan. And I need to do that pretty quickly here, because I think he's ready to pour this pretty much as soon as I am. So over here we have our rolls of PEX tubing. I can't remember how many loops they said this was. What, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 loops, 300 feet. Then we have a manifold in there and some other miscellaneous parts. If you didn't watch the video back when I did this stuff in the shop, it's a good little project. But it's kind of satisfying in an odd way. It's one of those jobs that once it's done, you're just like, wow, that looks really cool and super tidy and neat. And it's just, I don't know, something about that work is enjoyable to me. It also helps that I get to work out here in my favorite place, because I am just in love with this view. I mean, fall, all these colors, these leaves. I could just stare at this all day. All right, it is the next day. They came back this morning and they cut all the joints into the concrete. I remember the last time they cut a slab for me, a lot of people were asking why they do that. So if you don't know, there's two types of concrete. There's concrete that's cracked, and then there's concrete that hasn't cracked yet. So when you pour new concrete, that's the kind that hasn't cracked yet. So what you do is you either, when you're pouring the concrete, you can use a hand tool that will put joints into the concrete, or you come back after the fact and cut the joints in, which is what they did here, because it makes a nice, very small, tight joint, versus if you use a trowel. You usually see those on like sidewalks and stuff like that, where they'll actually hand trowel the joints in. And the purpose of that is they call them a control joint. So as the concrete cures, it shrinks. You know, all that water's curing and evaporating out of the concrete. So you're losing a good percentage of the mass of the concrete as it cures. That water is evaporated out. And that causes the slab to crack. So you put these control joints in there and you hope and pray that the concrete cracks along those joints, which if you do it right and you put enough joints in the right locations like these guys do, I'd say they're probably successful 80 or 90% of the time, maybe more. But if you don't do it right, the slab's gonna crack, and it's not gonna crack where you want it. So with these nice fresh clean lines here cut in it, if the concrete cracks along that line, you'll never know it, because the top is cut perfectly and cleanly, and you'll get a straight break versus, you know, if the concrete just cracks wherever it wants to, it'll run all kind of goofy lines and not look nice. But these joints, these ones look nice. The other thing I'm considering doing, as I did in my shop, I blew the cracks out real good and sealed them up with solder seal, and that keeps any dirt or junk from accumulating in those cracks, or any moisture from potentially coming up through. But where this pad is situated, there's virtually no risk of that happening at all. All in all, the floor turned out absolutely beautiful, so I'm super thrilled with that. Anyway, moving on to the basement. Okay, the time is now. We need to get all of this insulation and PEX tubing installed over here in the basement so that they can pour this floor. Now this is Monday afternoon, late afternoon, and they want to pour this Thursday morning. So I got to get this rolling. Shouldn't take that long, but that's a big shouldn't. So to start laying this foam out, I'm going to start over in this corner, I believe, and work all the way across. And what I'll do is I'll just build one straight row from corner all the way running out into that bay over there. It's going to kind of hit into that wall on an angle. And then I will build out this way off of that foam, and then that way into this little bump out and the rest of that angled piece down there. So we'll have to do some cutting in those angled pieces, as well as work around some plumbing down here. So that little bit's going to take time, and that angled bit will take a bit of time. But the vast area here will actually go pretty darn quick. We got almost all the foam staged up in here. I left a few bundles outside just to not make things too congested, but we're going to go ahead and cut open some bundles and start laying this stuff out. I had a couple loose pieces over here that they brought out. I just kind of tossed them down to get an idea what this is going to look like. So you guys can see that's what it's going to be, and then we'll just keep tacking on to it as we go. So well, let's get to it. Oh boy. It's the next day. I finished that foam up last night, got that all installed. I got a little bit of teeny filling in along this gap still to do, but I think I'm going to do that with expanding insulation foam rather than trying to cut these sheets in little strips to fit down in there. Just hit it with a spray can and be done. I'm running out of time. They're coming to pour tomorrow morning and it's already afternoon today. So I just got my manifold hung and I got my pipe started. This is the PEX spinner that I made up for when I did the shop floor. It worked out really good, so hopefully it does again today. But just trying to figure out what zones I'm gonna build here and go from there. So wish me luck. Yeah, I learned a lot from the last time I did this. I hope we can get it done pretty darn quick since I know what I know now. Okay, the first run is done. 7 more to do. I always cut the tubing a little bit longer than I think I need. That way I can fine trim it. Putting these together is real easy. You just slide your nut on first, then your little compression fitting there. Then you just slide the nut up, crank it down. Slide these elbows over the pipe here so that up against the wall where they stick up out of the concrete, you can't accidentally break them as easily. The conduit kind of gives you some protection on the PEX if you were to slide something up against it. Whew! Finally done. Probably doesn't look like it on camera, but we are losing daylight in a hurry out there. I just got my little work light here. And this went really well, knock on wood. I got my manifold all bolted together, and I even just pressure tested it. And we're sitting right at 50 PSI, so it might drop a little bit overnight because it's gonna get cold, so the air pressure will drop a little bit. But I think we're gonna be okay. I don't hear any leaks right now. It's been sitting on there for a few minutes. I'm walking around making sure there's no places the PEX is trying to pop up, like right here. Yeah, some of these loops. I got a box of little plastic staples. They look just like that. And I'll just go around with those plastic staples and hold down these little couple places that are wanting to come up, because if they're coming up now with just the air pressure in them, once everybody gets in here and starts working the concrete, they're going to want to float up anyhow because they're filled with air, and they're going to be in some sort of a fluid, so their natural tendency is to rise anyhow. So we got to make sure everything's pinned down really good, and we'll check it again, of course, in the morning before they start laying any concrete. It's kind of disappointing. I know you guys can see the tubing right here where the light's at. When I did the shop, I used red tubing, and there was something really satisfying about being able to look back across the shop when I was done and seeing all those perfectly straight lines and the bends and everything that were all perfectly orchestrated. It's a really neat and tidy job when you use this special foam like this. It's a little bit more money than the standard, sheet, but it saves a lot of time on installation, which I can get behind. So I think it's worth the money. Plus, I think it has a higher R value. And it's kind of flush when you're walking around on it. You're not like catching it, whereas if you zip tie it to rebar or wire mesh or staple it to the pink foam, then whenever you're walking around, your feet kind of can catch it easy and cause issues. This stuff it's flush. You're not really catching it with anything. So I think when people are pouring concrete, they're probably less likely to damage the pipe. Anyways, it's getting late. I'm getting hungry. I'm gonna go home and grab me some dinner. We'll be back in here bright and early in the morning to double check everything before they get here and start putting the concrete down. Alrighty, well, it's the next morning. I've been out here since 5, because right before I got in bed last night, I remembered that there was a big pile of gravel sitting where their trailers are at now. And I had to get out here and spread that. So I've been running non-stop, and I finally just got a second to grab a camera and do a little bit of filming, but obviously concrete guys are here. Concrete's here. They're dumping into the pump truck and pumping her down into the basement. Luckily enough, the tubing system held pressure overnight. No leaks. Only dropped a couple PSI, and like I said, that's due to the temperature fluctuation. These guys should be pumping away down here. I probably won't get a whole lot of footage in here because I don't want to get in their way today. They got their trowel machines hanging there so that they can get them out onto the concrete without going across the fresh stuff. So there's the fresh rock I spread, and that would only take a minute or two to spread that normally, but there was a bit of a hump kind of right in there, and I cut it out with a dozer first. Flatten it out, bomb that rock in there. It's not exactly a fine job because I did it partially in the dark under light plant light, but we can do a little fine tuning on that another day.
You want just a float around that drain there?
bit of leftover concrete, so I rigged up a power screed machine here with old Johnny Gradall and a hunk of 14-inch pipe. Precision concrete grading like this. Oh man, sometimes I impress myself. That worked way better than I expected, honestly. I'm gonna go borrow the concrete guy's bull float now and just hit it with the bull float, and I think that's gonna look pretty darn good. And look at that floor. This thing turned out amazing. I figured I'd get in here and get a clip of it before it gets footprints all over it, because the electrician is here. My buddy Adam's gonna be mounting up our electrical panel over here in the corner. So they're gonna be tracking in out here, probably get some footprints on the floor, and not to mention the concrete guys are on their way back here now, I think, to saw cut the floor and give it control joints. So yeah, it's gonna get messy looking. The floor never looks as good as it does the day after it's poured, or until somebody gets on it and starts doing stuff. This is as clean as it will ever be, but it looks dang good. You wouldn't believe how smooth a finish they get this thing. It is an awesome, awesome job these guys do. Well, guys, here we are about a week and a half, I think, maybe 2 weeks later since they put the roof on. And we've got our first little taste of snow on it. I guess I should have gone ahead and started recording earlier today. There was a bit of that nice white fluffy stuff collected on the metal roof, and it looked pretty nice, not gonna lie. I was pretty happy with it. All in all, picking a color scheme for a house like this is rather difficult, and I'm happy with it, but you know, like everything, there's like little things that you would change, I guess. It's a learning experience. So things like, you know, the garage is 28 feet deep, should have gone 30, just be easier to fit my truck in there, and maybe a couple smaller vehicles instead of my truck, something like that. The roof color is one of those things I would probably change. I picked that color specifically because it matches the same color on the roof of the other two buildings out here. At the end of the day, I'm not sure it was that critical. I think it probably would have looked a little bit better if we went a little bit darker on the roof. Not quite black, because the windows are framed in a color that's not quite black, so I think that probably would have matched the roof together nicely with the windows. Trying to keep up with everything going on the outside of the house here has been difficult. What I didn't show you is the electric conduit install, because I was kind of under the gun to get that done before the power company got here. Luckily, the power company did show up here at the beginning of the week. They pulled the wire through, and now we have power on in the house. The wiring isn't quite done yet. My buddy Adam, the electrician, still has a few things to finish up in our kitchen, but there is power on to the house. Not a lot of work being done this week. This is the week of Thanksgiving, so people are enjoying their time, not to mention the weather is a bit cold, as evidenced by the snow there. So that's why the stone guy has not been here finishing this thing out. He's pretty close, but still has quite a bit of grouting left to do. As you can see, he did this little area right here has the grout finished out on it, and it looks pretty nice. But if you get up here, you can see still needs the grout lines all filled in. So once the weather warms up a little bit, he's going to be back. He'll finish out all that grouting and Same with all the other trades, I imagine. I don't think I showed you guys the siding going on. That was kind of one of those days I was busy running around doing the other things, and the siding people were here doing their thing. And they did a great job, though. I'm really happy with the siding. I'm glad I picked what I picked. We had thought about doing that board and batten that seems to be very popular these days. So we decided to go against the board and batten and run the shiplap stuff because with the standing seam on the roof there, we thought the vertical lines would kind of all clash. You know, the board and batten lines wouldn't line up with the standing seam roof lines, and it would just be a lot of vertical lines going on. So I think this was a nice balance of horizontal and vertical. I think originally at the beginning of the video I might have told you that we were going to do the porch in this video, but construction being what it is and the weather being what it is, the porch has been pushed off a little bit. I think we're expecting to have that done in the next week or two, but they did come out here and get it all framed up and prepped and ready to go. So as soon as they get a break in their schedule, they're going to come out and knock this out. It's such a small pour that I don't blame them. It's a little hard to fit that into a schedule, not to mention it's under roof. So if it's a crappy day and raining a little bit, they can probably still get this done even though it's raining. As far as the internals go, I've talked to you guys before about it. I think I'm going to hold off on showing you guys the interior layout of the house just for my own privacy reasons. There's some things are still sacred, I guess. But the electrical's pretty much done, minus a few things. Plumbing's done. Waiting on insulation, I think, in the next few days. Maybe it's Friday, so maybe next week. I think the insulation people are supposed to show up and start insulating the whole house. And once that's done, it'll be on to drywall. As far as the outside of the house is concerned, now that it's dried in, the pressure is off, but we're still waiting on rain gutters. We're waiting on warmer weather so that the stonemason can come back and finish up doing all the stone work. He's got the front of the house here, as you can see, mostly done. There's just a little bit around the doors. Once the rain gutters are installed, then we will have some downspouts to contend with, and of course the downspout lines. That's why I haven't done any backfill around the house yet up to grade. As you can see, the dirt is going to come up to the bottom of that stone right there. But I figured there's no point in doing that until we have our downspout lines in place, because then I'm just digging that grade right back up. So for now, I'm just leaving it at the original elevations. And when such time comes, we will do our backfill. That porch, which is about 2.5 feet off the ground now, the dirt's going to come right up to the bottom of the concrete there. So it's going to be like one step up off of the sidewalk onto the porch, and then one step up off the porch into the house. So pretty friendly for when I get old and feeble. Evil will be able to just push me off the stair in my wheelchair. Around the back of the house here, they did run short a little bit on the siding. So they got some more ordered, and I think that'll be here within the next week or so. And I know they'll be out to finish that up just as soon as it comes in. The siding is going to continue following that elevation all the way around, and the upper floor will be getting the siding, and then the rest of this exposed concrete you see will all be getting that same stone that's already on the walls over here. So here we are in the back of the house. They have the deck all framed out, and we're just waiting on the actual deck material that I had them order. What I had them order was a special deck material that turns that deck also into like a porch roof. So the patio that we're going to put in down here eventually, we're not planning on putting the patio in right away here, but eventually when we put a patio down here, I don't want you to be getting rained on. So the deck is going to act as a little porch roof essentially. And I looked at a few different systems that you could do that with, and I found this neat decking that doesn't let any water through it, and that's the stuff I ended up going with. So that's a neat system, and whenever it comes in and they're installing it, I'll be sure to show you guys how that works, because it's pretty slick. There's not much to see down here in the basement, but all the plumbers and the electricians and stuff have all been working down here, buttoning things up. It's going to be a nice, big, fairly open space when all is said and done. We're going to have a utility room over in that corner, and the rest of this is going to be pretty much wide open. So I think the wife's going to have enough room for her Christmas decorations is, I guess, the point I'm getting at. So ultimately, that's where we're at today, guys, and I apologize. I really wanted to show you guys some of this work a little more in-depth, but things have just been happening so fast between the work I need to be doing plus other people showing up here and working. It's hard to be both places at once to set up cameras and film. So really, I couldn't be any happier with the work that's being done. It's going way faster than I kind of thought it would for this time of year. nobody likes working out in the miserable cold and rainy weather, not to mention the holidays are all wrapped up in this mess too, so I figured production would slow down a lot right now. And there's nobody here today, but things are still happening behind the scenes. Stuff's being ordered, kitchen stuff still being designed, lots of stuff still happening on this build. We got power. I mean, what a milestone that is. You guys remember the fight that I went through with the power company to get power over to my shop. So I thought I might be in for more of the same with the house, but luckily some new people are in the positions at the power company that I was dealing with before. So the new guys have been great. So if you're watching from the power company, thank you guys. Anyways, it's time to wrap this one up here, guys. If you like the progress on the house, let me know down below in the comments. Sometimes I really appreciate you guys' suggestions. You guys have some really good ideas sometimes. So I always read a lot of those comments and I really appreciate that. That's all I got for now. I do want to throw you guys one more reminder about holiday shipping. If you're planning on ordering anything from the merch store, that's dieselcreek.com. Link is always down in the description there. But if you're planning on ordering anything from the merch store, we are not Amazon Prime. We have no pull with the shipping companies. If you guys would like something to be under the tree on Christmas morning, I suggest you stop what you're doing right now and put your order in, because the clock is a-ticking, and the longer you wait, the less and less you can expect it to be there for Christmas, especially you folks overseas. I think you're probably already cutting it pretty close to the wire as of this date of posting. So I appreciate all the support at the store. There's been a ton of orders lately. The merch team has been doing the best they can to get that stuff all shipped out as soon as they come in, but these things in reality take time, not to mention the shippers are just extremely busy at this time of year. So get your orders placed as soon as possible if you'd like something for Christmas. That's dieselcreek.com. Link, as always, down in the description. Anyways, if you guys are still here listening to me chatter, I appreciate you hanging in there, and I will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Later.